Last September, I moved to South America equipped with 3 months of Duolingo and basically no plan. 9 months later, I lived in 3 countries. I had my bank accounts were robbed. I lost over 5 figures and my identity was stolen. And I accidentally found a girlfriend on a small train in Argentina. In this video, I'm going to give you a full breakdown of the trip. This includes tax-free residencies. It includes the most beautiful place in the world I've ever been to and where I'd recommend for living in South America that I don't really hear that many people say. Let's get started with the first country I went to, which is a place that very few people think to check out, and I'll tell you why you should. Grab yourself a cup of tea and let's dive in. So the first place I went to was Paraguay, and I knew I was in for a rough ride. When I arrived at the airport, my Uber app wasn't working, and so I had to order a taxi by voice, and I thought my Spanish was good and I had no clue what he was saying. He had no clue what I was saying. I ended up paying like 20 times more for like a 15-minute trip, which is a very good sign of welcome to South America, you gringo. I was so grateful to be there, you know, like I felt like I'd stepped into the unknown. There was so much uncertainty, and maybe you can relate if you've been traveling, but there's such a strong feeling of being alive when you're in a country where it's like, what the hell am I doing here? What are we going to do and all of this? Now, I came to Paraguay because of the tax residency scheme. They have something similar to Dubai where you pay 0% tax on foreign income. So I actually think it's better than Dubai now. But the only thing is, what they don't have is time regulation, right? You just need to go to Paraguay for 1 day per year to maintain this tax residency. Now, I live in England, tax is pretty high, but I barely spend time in England now, so I was like, well, why would I not do this? So before I tell you what happened with the tax residency, my thoughts on the country, surprisingly good. I mean, look, the first day I got there, I was walking around the city and I was like, what the hell have I done? This place is dead. But actually it was a public holiday. What happened after that was there's like a certain charm to the city center area. You know, there's an area where you can walk around for like an hour, 2 hours. It's completely safe. The city isn't flashy, okay? You know, it's not full of tourists. It's not like going to Dubai. Like if you're looking for that, then you're going to the wrong place. But like I said, it's safe. The people are lovely. Even if you can't speak Spanish, the English isn't great there, so it's good for learning, tough for learning. Gym was fantastic. Internet was fantastic. Food was pretty good. And it's very, very cheap for what you get. Like I had a $1,000 a month penthouse with a sauna and all of this stuff, which is just, you know, if I was paying for that in London, I would need a mortgage. And one of the cool things about Paraguay, and everyone I met there said the same, is that there's just an energy of positivity. And that's because the economy is actually up and coming. A lot of businesses coming in, and it's a very stark difference from England, which has this feeling of like oppression and everyone giving up. But there were 3 downsides. Number 1 is the weather. Now, it sure as shit beats the UK winter, so I'm not going to complain there, but my god, it gets hot. It gets hot fast. It's a very tropical country, and because of that there's storms as well. So it's some absolutely epic storms. If you like that, I kind of do. When that happens, the streets will flood, but then the floods disappear after like 20 minutes. It's a very weird thing, but if you don't like the tropical weather, you're probably not going to like it there. Number 2 is the traffic. Welcome to South America, but like the traffic just sucks. I tried to walk everywhere, but the walkability is okay, and if there's loads of traffic, it's just not that nice to be walking next to a lot of cars. Not good for you either. And then on that note, the third bit that I didn't really like is there's not that much green in the city center. There are parks a little bit further out, but I like to have a place where I can literally finish writing, go for a walk, and then come back up, and it wasn't that great for that. But you could walk around without fear of getting robbed or anything, and I'm going to tell you the story about me getting robbed, which was not in Paraguay. Ironically, it's in a place that's meant to be much safer. So I ended up staying in Asuncion, which is the capital, for 2 months. That was because I had some document issues in the UK, so I was waiting for them to arrive. And I made a friend, and I was like, actually, this has been a lot better than what I thought. It is a very good place if you want to like monk mode and work. And obviously the residency process, that was a bit strange. Very easy. I worked with a company. I couldn't really speak Spanish, as you know. I went to one building, I signed some things, I stamped some stuff, I got some photos taken. Then they took me into Interpol, stamped some stuff, I gave my fingerprints, and then they took me to another building, which I don't know still to this day what that building was. And then at the end, they gave me a little yellow slip, shook my hand, and I was like, SOS, no, let's see, vamos. And now I'm a resident. And to maintain that, then I come back in a year, and I'll probably go not just for a day, but, you know, a nice couple of weeks every now and then in Paraguay. It's not really going to hurt. I also did manage to get out to a place called San Bernardino, which is a town, like the tourist town, about an hour away from Asuncion. Really nice lakeside town. What I found quite surprising was it's just full of Germans. Nothing wrong with the Germans, the Brits are better. But I think it's like a little German secret, Paraguay. And there I rented this huge villa with a swimming pool for $100 a night, which was just fantastic for writing. But after 2 months, my desire to explore was really starting to kick in again. And so I ordered an 8-hour taxi to the border of Paraguay, the border intersection of Paraguay, Brazil, and Argentina, to see a place called Iguazu Falls. So Iguazu is a river that's about 1.3 thousand kilometers long, and it actually carves the three countries. It just defines the border. Now, the border crossing itself was hell, okay? Because after I got that taxi, he was like, oh, no puedo cruzar, and I can't get to the other country. So then I had to find another taxi. That taxi guy was like, oh, dude, it's going to take you 3 hours to cross, but you can jump on a motorbike. And I was like, I'm not getting on a motorbike with 2 suitcases. I ended up paying some guy who took me through some back streets. Eventually, we popped out onto the bridge. I will never know how. And then I was in Brazil. In Brazil, the place was called Foz, which is a small city on the border. I just wanted to chill. I was up early in the morning. I went for ice cream. I met a girl. She was like, let's go to a nightclub. So I went night clubbing. If dating in Spanish was bad, Portuguese is even worse. I had a few drinks. I stumbled home at 2 in the morning. I woke up at 7 a.m. to go check out Iguazu Falls. Now, Iguazu Falls is one of the 7 natural new wonders of the world. And if you ever get the chance to go, I highly recommend it. The size of the waterfall is absolutely staggering. I took a boat, and you actually take a boat into the water. Nature's ultimate cold shower. It was ridiculous how powerful it was. And so that day I spent 4 hours on the Brazil side of Iguazu. I actually saw a black jaguar, which was pretty badass in the wild. Then they have like a bird park too, and that was actually a really lot of fun. It's a great trip. And then I packed up my bag, and then I hopped over the border to Argentina. Now, I stayed in a place called Puerto Iguazu, and after a couple months in Paraguay, which is just not that touristy, it was actually a really nice breath of fresh air to be in a tourist town. Food was great, really nice vibe. I stayed in a great hotel with a view of the river itself, and then I went to the Argentinian side of Iguazu Falls the next day. That side is much more diverse. You can spend the full day walking there, and of course I did. Although my favorite part was the small train ride you have to take to the main waterfall. Why? Because sitting opposite me was a very attractive girl. And I was obviously shitting myself to speak to her, so I just sat there like a plonker for 20 minutes, wondering what I could say in Spanish. And then eventually I said something, I can't remember what it was. And then we fumbled through Spanish for about an hour. Turns out she was going to the same, well, she was from the same place that I was visiting next, which was Buenos Aires in Argentina. I got her number. Long story short, she ended up being and is my girlfriend. But alas, I'm getting ahead of myself. After the night in Puerto Iguazu, I took a very short flight over to Buenos Aires. Now, I'll be honest with you, initially I resisted going to Buenos Aires because the reviews online were great. People will be like, oh, it's very European. You don't go to South America like to be in another European country. The prices are really high. It's super political, whatever. But my friend in Paraguay was like, you're going to love it. So I took his advice. I went, and you know what? He was right. I stayed in Palermo, which is like tourist central, but I stayed true to my vow of not really hanging out with anyone except Spanish people. Just I really wanted to learn the language. So I managed to immerse quite a lot in the local culture there. And the city itself is awesome, right? Like, it's so beautiful. If you're a big foodie, you know, it was within like 20 minutes walk of my house, there was 200 restaurants. And my dream day is just writing, hitting the gym, and then going to eat. So I was in paradise. And I love the Argentinian people, right? They're just crazy passionate about everything. The European twist is fantastic. It's like this weird Spanish-Italian combination. And I was like, wow, I don't want to leave. You know, some of my favorite parts, the Sunday market in San Telmo, you're just strolling down these beautiful cobbled streets with these old buildings. You've got the craziness of Boca, which is one of their football teams. So many museums. They have beautiful parks very close in the city center. Went to a Theatre Cologne, which is one of the best theaters in the world. Drank a lot of mate, which is kind of like English tea, but not as good. And one of my main highlights is actually joining the Art of Living. What I like about Argentina, they have much more mental health awareness than England. You know, for example, it's normal to go to a therapist, which I think everyone should be doing anyway. And every morning when I was walking to get a coffee, there was a meditation center. And one day a guy was standing outside. I was like, what is this? He was like, oh, it's a meditation center. You should come to this 3-day introduction thing. I went. Little did I know, I don't know what I was thinking, but the whole thing was in Spanish. So I didn't understand basically anything, and it was terrifying. You do all this group work, and I'm just there being like, the f*** are we doing? But I ended up making some really good friends, and it was really nice to actually feel like part of a community, because one problem with nomading is that you're just popping in and out of communities, and it can get maybe a little bit lonely. And actually with these guys, before I left Buenos Aires, I did a 3-day full silent meditation retreat, which is one of the first times I've done that. It helped that it was silent because it was less Spanish, but I was also a lot better at Spanish by then. And we went, it's about 9 hours west of Buenos Aires, and I got to the city where Messi was born, another place, and this is in a monastery with, again, like loads of people interested in this stuff, knowing English speakers again, or at least no native English speakers, and it was really nice. The mind-blowing thing about Argentina though is that 9-hour drive was like this on the map, and that would be like driving the full bit of England. Now the only downside to Buenos Aires was that I got robbed in Palermo, which is one of the safest places ever. I was walking around with my phone out, it got taken out of my hand. It was my fault, obviously. You got to be stupid in South America. I ran home, I locked my phone within 5 minutes. I thought everything was cool, and then my bank accounts got empty, my identity got stolen, my phone got wiped, my Mac got wiped, I lost 800 hours of writing on my book because I forgot to save it online. It was the worst 3 days of my life because I didn't know one to call, I had no money, all of this stuff, and I was like, wow, this is one of the things they say about traveling. Thankfully, I had met Carolina, and actually I tell Carolina that robber is one of the best things that could have happened to us because we became a lot closer as a result. She was amazing. And so I said to her, like, after everything was sorted, that I wanted to stay in Buenos Aires to, you know, get to know her more. I was really enjoying the city, but I was sick of city living. And so I was like, I want to go somewhere else. Let's go to Patagonia. Now, Patagonia is insane, but before I just explain that, just a quick heads up. If you're interested in traveling, one of the best things you can do is write online, because then you get the freedom to work where you want, when you want, with who you want. I created a 4-step guide. It takes 5 minutes to read. It's free. That'll show you the exact strategy of how you can turn your ideas into income. So Patagonia, I have always dreamed of going. I'm a big hiker. I've heard such amazing things about it, and I was itching for nature. We went. We were going to go for 2 weeks. We almost didn't make it because Genius over here booked to the wrong airport. There's 2 in Buenos Aires. Please don't make that mistake. A lot of people do. But I'm glad we did go because holy shit, it was amazing. It's like a ski resort. Obviously, we went in the summer, and it's nestled by a lake with the view of the Andes Mountains in the background. Big alpine forest is just, for me, that's like the dream. Every morning I woke to watch birds like skimming over the lake. The mountains with these colors of like pink going like all the way up to these beautiful grays and blues and greens. And I'll be honest with you, life in Patagonia was my cup of tea. The days are really long, and so you could work all morning, all afternoon, and still get like a good 2-3 hour hike in. And there were so many hikes that you could go on. And there's also loads of beaches by the lakes. And if you like road trips, you can do the 7-lake road trip, which was about 8 hours, which we did. And I was like, this is just so much goddamn fun. The downsides, it's expensive. If you're going in winter, it's snow, which I don't want to pay any money to be cold. And the traffic sucks, right? Because it's like one road and it's very touristy. And then I'd be amiss if I didn't tell you that one of the best parts of the trip was that I asked Carolina to be my girlfriend. I did it while the sun was rising and sitting by the lake. Apparently I can be a little bit romantic. And she said yes, thankfully. And then we returned to Buenos Aires. But the problem is, in Argentina, you can only stay for 6 months. Or else you start triggering residency stuff, and that would be a big headache with the Paraguay thing. So I was like, well, let's go somewhere else. And I asked if she'd come with me. We were debating Colombia, Peru, but I had a friend, my friend in Paraguay, and another friend being like, dude, you need to come to Brazil. And I was like, hell no, I'm not spending 9 months learning Spanish to go to somewhere that speaks Portuguese. And they're like, no, you need to come to this place. I relented, and boy, I'm glad I did. So let me tell you about Florianopolis. Florianopolis is about 3 hours flight from Buenos Aires. It is an island off the south coast of Brazil, and it is a paradise. You know, my previous experience of island living, which was in Thailand, you get a lot of beauty, serenity, tranquility, but you lose a lot of like infrastructure of just stuff not working and roads are crap. Florianopolis is not like that, okay? It's an island, but the infrastructure is amazing. The buildings are amazing. The restaurants are amazing. And the really big bit with Brazil is that it's safe. Like the crime is really, really low there. Like we would go onto the beach at, 10, 11 at night and not have any worries about that. That's a big thing. Especially after you've just been robbed. So we rented a small apartment buried at the end of a suburb street, which had a direct walk out over the dunes and into the beach. We went hiking. We went to loads of restaurants. The food quality was just great, so we were cooking a lot too. And there were just some incredible displays of nature. Like I took some great photos of sunsets at beaches. We saw monkeys, all of this stuff. And if I had more time, I definitely would have learned to surf, because that's one of the biggest things that people do there. Aside from occasionally sucky traffic, but not that bad, I don't have a bad word to say about Florianopolis, except I learned the wrong language. And this leads me to the honest verdict about which one wins. And I hate when people do this, but they all won in their own way. Asunción is great if you are on a low budget, you don't want to be distracted, you want a monk mode, and you want to really get a taste of like a culture that's less tainted by tourism. Argentina is great, right? Buenos Aires has such a lovely charm to it, and Bariloche, Patagonia, like your jaw will just be on the floor the whole time. Florianopolis is awesome, okay? Like if you want a good blend of activity and nature and infrastructure, probably the best place I've lived in South America, and up there with one of the best places I've been to in the world. And if I was settling down and moving around and not moving around anymore, that is a very, very good front runner. But all good things must come to an end, and I'm in Miami now, going to Canada to give a talk with Dan Coe, and I'm flying back to England to see friends and family, because all this time away, it does make you realize that the best things are at home. So if you enjoyed this, hit subscribe at the bottom below. I will send some more videos about some of my travels, and if you'd like to go a bit deeper, I recorded a video explaining the one conversation that led to me quitting dentistry. It's absolutely crazy what 7 words a patient told me. That's going to be on the screen now. Cheers for listening.